Hi, everyone, and welcome. Today on Scouting for Growth, we are meeting a founder whose career feels like it was custom built for the moment we are living in today. A moment where every ambitious idea is colliding with AI, Web3, and the no-code movement. Sara Simeone is the award-winning entrepreneur behind NoCodeLab.ai, the first vibe coding launchpad that helps non-technical dreamers ship AI-powered products in just 5 weeks. No keyboard sorcery required. You may remember Sara from my discussion on nifties.io, where she is also the CEO and one of the co-founders. She used this platform to show global brands how to turn data and IP into tokenized revenue-ready assets. Before building startups, Sara steered digital strategy for heavyweights like WPP, Datsu, Vistaprint, and Oriflame, proving she could juggle Fortune 500 expectations and startup speed in the same breath. Her work has landed her on Computer Weekly's Top 100 Women in Tech, the Top Woman in Crypto list, and even earned a Best NFT Project Award at Davos. So whether you are a Gen Z founder sketching ideas on a dorm whiteboard, an investor scouting for the next scalable platform, or a corporate leader hunting for fresh growth engines, Sara's story is your front row seat to how vibe coding is about to change the way we build. Grab your coffee, cue up your curiosity. Let's dive into the vibes with Sara Simeone. Welcome again, Sara, to the Scouting for Growth podcast. Hi, Sara. So good to have you on Scouting for Growth again. So welcome.
Thank you, Sabine. Thank you. So good to see you again and to be part of this amazing podcast.
Yeah, and for a very long time, you were one of the top 5 podcasts across the globe, right? 40 to 50,000 downloads. So, not a small number, but I would love to hear, Sara, how things been? What has happened between, our last call, our last chat around Web3 and what you're doing today?
Oh my God, so much has changed, Sabine. It's incredible. When we last spoke, I was still working on full time, of course, on Nifties. And that was like, the time of tokenization. And so many things have happened in the meantime. Regulations have come in. We started to develop more B2B tools for the legal space. And then all of a sudden, this drive around AI started to become more and more concrete as the days gone by. So I started to I went back to study. This time I was self-teaching myself some coding, and I started to create a lot of apps, agents, websites, and yes, and here we are. Now I'm basically leading NoCodeLab as a solo technical founder and also non-technical at the same time.
That is great because, I am a non-technical founder, come from industry, and I've always been in business. I understand very much technology and architecture, right, with my background in IBM, but I'm not a coder, right? I understand technology. I understand how things works together. And so I guess it was for people like me, I gather.
Is for anyone, actually. It's absolutely for anyone who's just willing to, learn and be patient and, just and have a lot of attention to details. Definitely, that is key for this.
So we are going to talk about vibe coding. So let's first introduce what vibe coding is. I was literally on Instagram the other day, as I mentioned to you, and Ali K. Miller started talking about vibe coding and the background of it. So I would love for you to tell us a little bit more about what it is.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, vibe coding was actually coined by Andrei Karpathy in early 2025. So this year it's brand new, fresh. He actually served as a director of AI for Tesla, worked slash co-founded OpenAI. So is definitely a genius in this space. And when I heard it, it just hit me. Because I mean, I've been doing this, like, before the actual term was created. And the way I think he interprets this is that you just create something using your natural language, which is English in this case. And of course, I mean, more and more platforms are adding more languages by the day. And you just basically vibe with the code. So you just basically try to understand how this whole, product that you've got in front of you is actually changing as you add more, prompts, as you add more features. And, it's just basically an evolution, I would say, of the drag and drops that we are used to with no code platforms. Now, instead, vibe coding teaches you to express yourself, in a clear, specific and tangible way. And I think this is just like, a very good way for us to translate visions into products.
That's wonderful. So tell us what personal and therefore marketing side convince you that the world need right now vibe coding and therefore for you to build a launchpad for non-technical founders.
So, it wasn't a light bulb moment. It's actually an accumulation of frustration from my side. I've always been technical since an early age. I had a computer age 6, and I was already coding back in the days with BASIC. And then all of a sudden, what happened is that I decided to go another route when it came to university. And one of my biggest regrets actually was that I was never able to code. But when I, as I had a very corporate career until 2018. And when I stepped into the startup founder mindset and the startup founder world, I realized that there was a big problem. I keep seeing a lot of very talented people, subject matter experts, who just basically had a lot of dreams, but they were not able to actually concretize these dreams into a tangible product. And that was extremely frustrating for me as well. I was seeing this people just either trying to spend like, 20, 30K on an MVP that, in the end wasn't what they expected, or they wasted months, like, trying to learn to code from scratch, but, then they got discouraged pretty fast. Or they get trapped pitching like, technical co-founders. But of course, I mean, in order to get a technical co-founder, you need to, tell them more about your story, your dreams and ideas, and bring them on board. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult. And in the meantime, we know that no code promise like the world. We know like, platforms like Wix and Squarespace and WordPress, they're amazing platforms, but they've got huge limitations as well. Especially, if you want to create like a bigger platform, a more, a better, bigger platform. And then on the other side, by the same, token, I was also, as an entrepreneur, attending a lot of courses and accelerator programs. And I realized that there was a big problem there. A lot of these accelerator programs are just teaching you how to launch a product and not how to create one, because they give for granted that you either have a technical co-founder or that you can actually create it yourself. So that basically means that a lot of non-technical founders are almost excluded, from a big portion of this entrepreneurial world. So I realized basically that really founders don't need to become techies, but they need a new kind of process that made tech work for them. And I think, that is just like, where when I realized that, this new AI wave can actually help us. And then, of course, we got Andrej Karpathy, who coined this fantastic word, which is vibe coding. And so now we are all here. And I really hope that, with the accelerator program and all the other efforts I'm doing, we will be able to bring on board more and more founders.
Yeah. And so it's interesting because what you are saying is with the current world of AI and generative AI, question which come to mind listening to you is, do we need to become coders in the first place, or are we well suited to be business people who really understand the problem we want to solve, and therefore if the technology allows us to speak our own language, shouldn't we be able to solve those problems much faster, therefore, in our own way?
Yes, I mean, it's a very interesting question because I was actually talking about this to a former colleague of mine. We studied together actually in 2018 at the Masters, and he was asking me exactly the same question, but he's got a technical background and he's actually a developer. And we were basically discussing the speed. AI is definitely going to give us, it's giving us a lot of tools, but we need to know how to use them. It's everything, right? You got a car, but you know how to drive it. It's very similar as, yes, we got a lot of tools at our disposal. We need to learn. We need to learn to be patient. We need to learn how to prompt these tools. We need to learn how to examine, what's going on and what's going wrong with some of the code that was created for us. And that is where I see, the biggest challenge. When I started this, my technical, coding knowledge was very bare minimum. But I had one thing, and that was like attention to details. If I noticed that there was something strange, that there is something strange. So you have to go back and prompt again these tools and ask what is going on? What are the problems? How can we fix them? This is crucial. I think, when you are using these AI platforms, if you feel that there is something wrong, there is definitely something wrong. And the beauty is that you can question, the code and understand what is wrong and ask the AI to fix it for you.
So you are living in both, right? You said you have been a corporate person and you have been a tech founder as well. And I know you as a tech founder. I met you at one of our sessions where we were aiming to pitch to investors. And that's where, when I met you, I fell in love with you. So I have to say that the connection was there instantaneously. So how did you experience the change which is coming to us, and what got you to build and shape NoCodeLab's core mission?
I have, let's say, I'm lucky because I was able to experience both worlds. The corporate world, where you have clear structure, clear brand messaging, strong products, governance, teams that align across departments. And, that is fantastic. Someone is doing the job for you, and then you are picking up from where they left, and you increase, and then you just send it to the next department. That structure has definitely helped me a lot when it came to actually create my own startup. I think that you need to think in a very much of a structured way, have your report set, have your to-do lists, have your top 3 things that you have to do that week, what worked, what didn't, and so on. On the flip side, in the startup world, I realized very quickly you're running on pure adrenaline. Everyone's improvising. The roadmap changes weekly or daily. You find you have to find a way, or you die, basically. So the magic really happens when you blend these two worlds. So the startup speed, gives you that. You have to build momentum fast, and that's what also investors want, right? They are giving you money so that you can accelerate your growth. And then on the other side, you've got your corporate discipline, and that discipline is so important if you want to scale and if you want to build a product. So NoCodeLab is a bit of a fusion of the two. And my goal is to give non-technical founders the creative freedom to move fast, but with the discipline of the corporate world, let's say. So we actually guide them to to just basically develop something new, to develop something that they would have never been able to develop before. On a personal level, it's slightly different, of course. I relate to the founders who are joining NoCodeLab because I'm a founder myself. For me, it's all about freedom, and I really want the founders to feel like they are capable, and if they have an idea, now it's possible to create, to realize that idea, to build that idea into something tangible. And, this is the voice that we didn't have before. Now there is a mindset shift. We can be our own CTOs, our CEOs, CMOs, COOs, and so on and so forth. We just need to have the right tools and the right knowledge and the right guidance, because that is also so vital, the right community around you.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the communities I'm part of, probably the AI communities, would say to me, there are plenty of 1 million solo entrepreneurs because, of the artificial intelligence capabilities that are there. So, 1 to 5 million, you can actually build a 1 to 5 millions company on your own with no employee, but just leveraging artificial intelligence and now agents. And so it's interesting because what you are saying, when we look at the target market and the founders we are going after, it is a founder who is a business person. It is a founder who has to move very fast to market with his or her idea, and actually someone who probably have a very structured mind. Being French, I did do engineering and I did do some coding. I'm not a coder, but you learn all those skills and you actually learn how to even write the prompt by breaking things down like a Lego puzzle, right? You need a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and then you actually start having your framework to actually achieve the outcome. And what I hear with vibe coding is, using that probably engineering mind and structured mind, you can then go into building the companies of the future. So, in one sentence, actually tell me what makes vibe coding fundamentally different from traditional coding tools. And you remember, I shape up startup bootcamp in ShowTech in Europe, in the United States. And so what makes it different from any bootcamps out there, right? That was for me old world. Now I'm doing venture clienting, and really I've been for the past 5 years looking at commercialization between corporates and startup. What makes what you do as well very different from what is out there?
So the thing is, right, Sabine, when we're talking about vibe coding, is a methodology, and I've basically adopted the methodology and I created my own way. I say that finally with NoCodeLab you can build your ideas. And that is for me, like, the key sentence, because so far you were just talking about, I will one day achieve my, my goals by creating my ideas, by developing, like, finding a developer and so on and so forth. Now with vibe coding, you can build your ideas, and you can do that in a matter of days, weeks, or months, depending on your technical expertise, or as you said, on your background as well, because it's very important. You mentioned engineers, like, you need to have what the Latins call a forma mentis, like, a structure of your brain that, is specifically, like, trained to actually create something, to structure your thinking, right? I used to study Latin back in the days, and that actually helped me a lot with maths. And it's a way of structuring things in the right way. It gives you logic. It's the logic behind. That's so important.
So vibe coding, a method, as you said. And so what key mental shifts when you start looking at your labs, your no code labs, what key mental shifts do participants must adopt? Because I read, right, registering myself for your no code lab, that we can do a lot of things in 1 week to unlock rapid code-free building capability. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think that when I will never forget when back in August last year, I launched the first app with AI coding tools or IDEs, and at the time that was Mindcali, which was basically a very simple application to keep track of your mindset, and it was just part of a separate project that I was working on. But that excitement and thrill that I had, I will never forget. And I just, want to bring that into the sessions and the workshops that, we will basically start running from the beginning of this month. Now, I want the founders, in terms of mindset shift, I want them to actually be in a way able to understand or aware actually that they can solve their own problems and they can build something in plain English. I think this is just like, the first thing. What do you want to build? Let's start asking ourselves the questions. Who are the customers? What do they need? How much am I going to charge for this? These are basic things. You don't need to go through an accelerator or just create a, full value proposition. This should be like your bread and butter because you need to know who are your customers, what you're going to do, what you're going to build. Once we are there, then we can start generating some technical foundations, like, full product requirements that covers, the front end, the back end, the database, the APIs, or whatever you need in order to create that product. So I think the mindset shift is from, someone is going to help me or I'm going to pay someone to to create this, to now I can do it myself. I can solve the problems and I can build the solution.
So, I was during Easter, actually, I was with the parents of my godchildren, actually. And my darling friend, she's a director at one of the big consulting companies, said, Sabine, I'm using ChatGPT and we have our internal GPT, right? Private GPT. And she said, I used to be super structured when I used to put stuff into it. But now it's like my friend. I actually feed it. I said, what would you do for this situation? And what would you do for that situation? I said to her, I do exactly the same. It is a virtual assistant. It's a companion. And once I used to be super structured, it's like, I need to have this component, I need to have this component and this component. Now I'm much more fluid in the way I interact with my generative AI capability. So my question is, how do we start balancing rigorous product market fit, right? Because you are going to help founders build new products, new services, I hope as well, and new frameworks. And how do we do that to ensure that we have that creative experimentation juice, which is, I think, the key element of vibe coding and what vibe coding promises. So how do we do that?
First of all, I'm not going to overwhelm people with a lot of tech jargon because that's a problem of the startup space in general. We use way too many, technical jargons. So I'm also going to adopt a lean methodology. So we're going to start, as I said before, from what's the problem, who is this for, and how will we know that this is working? Then we are going to move fast into the creative part of vibe coding. So sketching the flows, crafting the prompts, generating prototypes. So I want to adopt a weekly deliverable system where people can just basically get results quickly, because you get demotivated if you don't get, results quickly. I see that with weights, if you don't see the scale going down, you're never going to be motivated, right? So I just want to make sure that everybody is going to be able to achieve something, even if that thing has got problems, because you can fix the problems not too far down the line. But obviously, we're going to have a 5 weeks together. So, the first week is all about understanding what you're trying to do, understanding how these tools work, and start creating the technical foundations and documentation that you can feed into these tools, so that then we can start focusing more on, let's see what, which features we can add. And I always suggest anyway to start with one feature, because everyone, is getting carried away with prompting everything. Right now we have a lot of influencers who are just talking about one-shot prompting, these apps. It's not something you want to do. You just need to take a methodical approach, as always, or perhaps that's, I don't know if it's a female thing, that we like to do, but I just want to make sure that, we don't overwhelm people, and, we take one step at a time in order to see these incremental changes.
Yeah, and I would agree with you. I mean, you cannot talk about generative AI or AI in general without having your own framework and having tried it. And, when you look at the work we do every day, we use a lot of AI, whether it's about visual or video or text, writing, research. But at the end of the day, what you find is a layered approach. It's like you ask a question, you get some answered, and then you have to go into the next layer to actually make sure that you actually check your citation and the content is correct. So it is a framework, it's a layered approach, and it's not one fit all because we work for a regulated industry, for myself, for instance. And so everything needs to be double checked and triple checked to actually make sure it is accurate and it's not going to put anybody in a reputational damage. So what I want to ask you now is, whether you can walk us through a concrete example, as to how you would apply maybe Gen AI plugin into a Vibe coding framework, a workflow to actually drive that ideation to MVP.
Yes, absolutely. So, as you said before, with you went to France, you were talking about, ChatGPT, right? And the fact that at the beginning you were very structured, and then you started to become a little bit more, you go with the flow, right? You go with the vibes.
I went
So,
with the vibes,
yeah,
indeed.
you're going with the vibes. In a similar way, a lot of people don't get the results that they dream of when it comes to creating these apps because they treat AI really like a mind reader. They prompt once vaguely and expect perfection. But that is not the reality, unfortunately. AI doesn't understand your thoughts yet. So, it only understands instructions. And I think that this is something I always mention to people. Don't assume that your thoughts are clear unless you are able to write them on a piece of paper and just hand them over to someone else who is not able to see. And then that game that we do normally in when you have big company meetings or gatherings, and you just basically have some people when you want to create some team building, and you just basically give instruction to someone that is blindfolded. Similar way, similar things. But when it comes to building a real prototype, this clarity of prompting becomes even more important, I would say. It's not just a conversation anymore. It's building architecture. You have to explain your ideas like if you were briefing a world-class engineering team. And I think that is where we need to be very structured in the way we plan the build. There are a lot of very interesting tools that we've been talking about before, legacy tools like WordPress, Wix, Squarespace. They give us all the illusion of simplicity. They let us drag, drop components, front end, back end, database, and it's automatically all stitched together. But when it comes to vibe coding, this is not the case. You have to be on the driving seat, and you have to basically start creating the architecture. You need to design the front end. You need to, connect it to a back end. You need to connect all the APIs. You have to control every single layer of the product. So when we're talking about example, I'm going to give you an example of something very quick that I did the other day, actually, whilst I was testing Canva code, which is one of the latest to actually
Canva.
join the party, right?
Okay,
Yes,
I didn't realize. Okay, Canva is
yes,
doing
yes,
Vibe.
yes.
Okay.
So basically, I created a very simple quiz. And it was just are you going to check if you will quit your job, 9 to 5 job, and then in the next 12 months. So it's just a simple quiz. But again, I had to first write it on paper because that's how I work. So let me think about what I want to do. Then, I went to ChatGPT. I just basically tested it. Then I basically asked for a couple of prompts, on the output that I wanted. So I just was very specific about what I wanted. The results needs to contain a minimum amount of money that you need in order to quit your job, and then a quote. So I just basically went there and I created all of these prompts, and then I went into the IDE and I just basically pasted it. So I went into the tool and I pasted it. And, that's it. There you go. I had it basically everything done. However, now if we are going to, a step deeper, right? Step further, that is not enough because you need to apply some backend database, where are you storing all this information? Where are you storing all these emails? You know, where, what else can we attach in order to give more context to, you know, the results? So this is where, you know, you need to go and start digging deeper into, you know, database. Which one shall we select? Supabase, Firebase, anything else? You know, understand also some other technical you know, things that we, you know, we're going to look into row level security policies, edge functions, you know, we're going to look into quite a lot of things because at the end of the day, you know, it's all connected and it will all make sense when we go through this process together. And then, of course, the APIs, right? So APIs to me, when I first started, they were like magic. And I just heard like, you know, these developers talking about, we need to create an API, link an API. And when I was going to these tools like, you know, Meta or just Google Analytics or mailing, you know, email providers, I could see APIs, get your token now. I was just like, oh my God, I really want to know how this works actually. And then I started to research. Last year it was all about learning, as I said. So, you know, now I'm using like, you know, a lot of connections and APIs behind the scenes, from OpenAI APIs to Google Analytics APIs and, you know, MailLite and so on and so forth. And they've really revolutionized the way I work. And this is also what we're going to see during the, you know, the accelerator on how to create an MVP. It's all connected. It's not only just the prompt of, hey, you know, make this quiz. It's also about, okay, now we need to create, you know, admin access. Then we need to create, you know, a database so we can store this information. Then we may want to connect a payment as well, because people may want to actually connect Stripe API.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we need to, you know, analyze. So, you know, we're just going to potentially connect also Google Analytics API. Very basic things, but they will feel revolutionary.
Yeah, I mean, I do use some APIs, as you know, and just because APIs allows you to connect different systems together to create a seamless customer experience, and that is what people need to really understand. The API is about allowing different systems to talk to one another and to provide the user, the customer, a single really seamless experience. And so therefore some systems are better than others. And so that's why we end up connecting different systems to actually drive a seamless experience, which is interesting actually, Sarah, when you start thinking about workflows and APIs. Because I did, you know, the primary course. To be able to join Sarah's course, I had to do the primary course. So I did it during my Easter holiday. And what I saw is, you know, there are a lot of systems. You mentioned databases, but there are also the workflow systems and all those things. So there are a lot of things that we need to get to understand. And then based on our threshold around coding or threshold around, you know, no code platform, then we can make choices based on the problem we need to solve for, right? And so that is very important for people to know. There is a library of systems across the value chain, from database to workflows to whatever we want to do, marketing or product design and all those things. And they need to connect. And what you may do would be very different from what I would do.
Yes, 100%.
Right?
I mean, yeah, I couldn't agree more. And that's the challenge that I had, like, you know, when I started to, you know, create the program, because, you know, I have at the moment, you know, a lot of applications to go through, luckily, but I see that everyone is trying to do different things. And based on my experience, I can see them using different vibe coding platforms, because even if there are many out there growing like mushrooms every day, I just basically, I created an ebook that I keep updating every day. I thought it was just like, okay, I did it like 2 weeks ago. And I basically listed around 65 different vibe coding platforms. As of today, I already have 85. So, and that was 2 weeks ago. So, you know, we all, there will be a very big fight amongst all the leading players. You know, we just actually, I was reviewing a news before that Supabase just completed a new round, investment round, you know, and that is being, driven by all of these vibe coding platforms, right? And then, of course, I mean, Lovable being one of the fastest growing companies ever. It's just like, it's incredible what is going on, but there are competitors out there. I mentioned before Canva Code because I came across this tool on, I was watching their demo day, their, announcement day, the Apple style. And I was very intrigued. So I said, okay, let me go and test it, because if I don't test all these tools, what am I supposed, what am I teaching here? What am I guiding people on, right? So I went on, and it was very simple and basic as I thought, which is ideal for someone who's doing, marketing, who's got a marketing agency and wants to mock up something very quickly. But if you want to do that, something a little bit more complex, you will need to know how to use, Lovable or Bolt first. That's the next stage. And then Cursor or Windsurf, which is the next level. So, and perhaps use multiple tools at the same time, like I'm doing, for instance, with NoCodeLab. People are just getting like surprised that I was able to create the whole platform from zero. I didn't use a template for the for the UI UX. I didn't have a front end or a back end or any APIs. Just create it like this. But we will be able to do it. Because if I do it, anyone can do it.
And that's the thing. If you can do it, anyone can do it. But I mean, you are the Italian charm and I'm the French one. You are smilier than I am, according to where we put the line in, between our two countries. But the key thing is, what you are saying is, if you want to spend the time and effort to learn, anyone can actually build a digital business and actually launch new products with a very lean team. And I think that is a key thing. It is, the company, the solopreneur, the company of one. And I think in the future, we are going to see many more companies of a few around the many providing services, even to the large corporates who are actually, still trying to find the best way to take those costs out of operation, but still deliver amazing value to their customers. 100%. So I want to actually about program mechanics and outcomes so that we can actually excite people to come and vibe code with us, right?
Yes, absolutely. So the mechanics is very simple, and I'm developing this. This is also a prototype, right? The business model itself, the pricing strategy, how difficult it is, Sabine, right? Just the pricing strategy, it's more difficult than coding a platform.
Absolutely true. Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, it's incredible. But what I did like a month and a half ago, I just basically ran a little survey amongst my, connections on LinkedIn. I asked what kind of, learning experience they wanted, whether they wanted some recorded videos or they wanted something more like, experiential. And I had a 50-50 split. And I decided to actually go with the experiential one. The reason why is that this is, as I said, this is still an MVP, right? And I need to speak to the users, and I want to understand what are the pain points. If I'm just going to record a video and send it to you, I don't know what you're thinking whilst you are doing things. I don't know what the bottlenecks are. So. Yeah. The structure is very simple. I'm bringing, I want everyone to have a basic understanding of vibe coding, and that's why I created the free mini vibe coding course that is available online on the website. And then I have a monthly masterclass of 2.5 hours where we are going to basically go from zero to launch, which is basically like, very simple, web app or mobile app. And we're going to basically create something, most likely without a database or, without APIs, but I want people to feel that thrill. After that, I'm going to select those ones who are applying for the accelerator program, and we're going to have 5 weeks together. The first week is all about learning, like, strategic planning and business model design, as usual, but a bit more techie, not just like, write your value proposition. Week 2 is going to be more about database design, tool selection. As I said, there are so many tools out there. We need to see who is working with what, and make sure that, I can follow them. And I'm not paid by these tools. So, for me, you can pick or choose whatever you want. I
Yeah.
don't really mind, as long as it's something that you can use and keep using in the future. And then, of course, week 3 is going to be all about, features development. We are going to focus on one feature, as I said, at the time, and testing. Testing is going to be so important. Refine your core features, understanding if there are any bugs. I want to make sure that people understand the security layer of these apps as well, because that is
Yeah.
actually one of the biggest weaknesses that right now vibe coding has,
No doubt.
we are
Hmm.
creating monsters.
Yeah.
And then of course, week 4 is more about advanced features. If you want to advance, if you are already ahead, you can start building more functionalities and other integrations. We're going to have also some marketing automation classes. That we, how to set up MailerLite or SendGrid or whatever you want, like MailChimp and so on and so forth. And finally, week 5 is all about audit and preparing for demo day, which I think that is going to be the exciting part, by the way, because I'm trying to create some very interesting partnerships at the moment. I want, the attendees to be able to really demonstrate what they've done in 5 weeks, with a tangible product.
That's super cool. And so one things I hear, you have a first program and then you have the 5 week sprint. So when we look at the target audience, is that going to ask a lot of time and effort from 5 weeks from them? I think it's very important for them
Yeah.
to understand, what is the time and effort required?
Of course, this is a paid program, so that's the first effort, of course. And, I priced it at a very affordable rate for that reason, because I want to make it affordable to everyone. But it's a small class of maximum 25 people, because I'm going to basically go after each and every person, making sure that they are all on track. And yes, this is going to be very quick build, and they will be able to see the results right away, I would say. So yeah.
So another thing which come to mind is, think about my audience, B2B startups. Those are the company I tend to work with, and they face off to B2B corporates. And you mentioned the security and privacy angle. So if there were, a B2B new founder wanted to vibe code and actually build a company of one to solve the problem of industries, corporate industry, banking, finance, retail, and so on and so forth, how can you make sure as they go through the course that they can actually think about information security and compliance and all the stuff you just mentioned, which are critical for a B2B business?
You know, Sabine, you just basically touched on something very, very important, because at the moment, what we are seeing in the vibe coding space is a lot of B2C. B2B is definitely less. I'm seeing fewer examples, and that's the reason why, right? So because of security issues, because of data compliance and governance, you've got so many things to think of, and what I say though for B2B startup founders is this: if you have an idea and you've not been able to complete your idea yet, you can actually still use vibe coding to prototype your idea and to give it in the hands of your users just to test, and just sit with them and see where they're clicking, what they're doing, the feedback on some of the colors, look at the UI, UX, front end, just try to understand, if there are any pain points or blockages that you can quickly tweak.
Yeah.
So use the vibe coding side more to actually, prototype and test live with users. Then if you're going after, if you're in the banking insurance industry, I always say that we need, the real pros in the room.
Yeah.
We need the developers, because this is something that actually I want to point out during this podcast, because there's been so much talk around, developers on LinkedIn, X, Instagram, everywhere. They're saying, "Oh, vibe coding, just this is another, big fad, and this is not going to be there forever. Oh, how many bugs and security issues, and um, And they obviously fear that vibe coding will replace their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want to give you my personal opinion on this. I think that vibe coding will accelerate, their job. Like it will basically bring everyone up
At the
a
same
level.
level. Yeah.
We as non-technical founders will be able to create prototypes. They will be able to accelerate growth and shipping of these products. And they will turn. I was actually listening to a podcast from the from Y Combinator. There was the co-founder of Y Combinator, and he said, developers will become product owners. There will be a shift in their job. They will become architects. So I definitely see like founders being able to create and prototype fast, go after the clients, tweak, and then go to the developer and say, now I have a plan, and it is a clear plan. It's not anymore, oh, build me a feature here because I really feel that that feature should be there. It's not going to be like this. We have no excuses anymore to actually waste time and money of everyone involved into these builds.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And so one key component of this all is community, right? And community today is critical to actually build any company. So what is the secret sauce for you? What are the rituals? What are the touch points? What is, the things we need to consider to keep the energy high and ensure that there is the right collaboration flow amongst all the participant members of your community and, vibing with you?
Well, I community is a tricky one for me because obviously we are solo founders. When you're a solo founder, managing a community in the right way is a full-time job on its own.
Yeah, it is.
So we are juggling a lot of things, and I hope that the community I will be able to form is the one that, when we are sitting down together during these workshops and accelerator programs, we will be able to form a bond, and we will be able to talk to each other in a way that we are not scared of voicing our own opinions or fears, because I have actually, during this month and a half that since I've basically launched NoCodeLab, I received a lot of messages from female entrepreneurs.
Yes.
And they all said, and I can give you a few examples. One, I'm so glad that I found you because I didn't even know where to start. Someone else, I am so glad that, I've seen something like this because I feel like I can do this myself. And then someone else told me, I've been quoted 20K for a prototype, and I really hope that I will be able to do this myself. So I asked her, can you send me your brief so that I it's like 20K sounds like quite a lot.
Yeah.
But it's a fully doable thing. So she's applied and she will actually do her own, program as well. But the problem that we're seeing is that a lot of female entrepreneurs, because they are not technical, they fear to voice their opinions or to actually ask technical questions. I want to make sure that the community we have doesn't have these barriers. Whether you are a man or a woman, this is a safe environment for everyone to ask questions. And if we don't have the answer, we're going to ask ChatGPT or Claude.
Correct. I like Claude. I like all of them. And I think all of them have strengths and weaknesses. And why I said I like Claude is because of part the accuracy. It's always about the accuracy of facts at the end of the day. Do we want to be more creative or do we need our reference point and our what I call citation? And today in our company we use u.com at length. So it's interesting what you are saying, because I have no doubt that a lot of female founders will actually feel that the no code lab is going to be a relief. It will be a place of safety. Partly when we look at European countries and, the weakness we have around STEM and actually attracting women to those degrees, where they feel often that, they are probably unwelcome or they actually fear to be actually judged by, the way these courses are being taught. And now we have a place where, with a little bit of logical mindset, we can actually build company on our own accord. So I think this is going to be revolutionary for our gender. 100%. And I'm really excited about it. As I said, I was very curious about the whole thing. And even I, who have very limited time, I am going to do it. So when we look at success factors, Saha, right?
Yes.
Beyond launching an MVP, what KPIs do we need to track to actually make sure that No Code Lab truly move the needle for us as founders once we have done the program?
Yes. First of all, are you going to be able to develop a prototype or not? Right. So that is step one.
Okay.
So that is going to be like, my hard KPI. I want to see how many people that started complete the program, and then how many people are able to actually launch and demo that product at the
To
end of the
investors
program,
or to a client, right?
to
Yes.
partners, communities, and to ourselves as well.
Cool.
After that, I want to make sure that they all launch this amongst their peers, because most likely after 5 weeks it's still not something that you can launch to the public, right? We all
Okay.
have anyway beta for that reason. So I really hope that they will be able to run a beta test and run a few questionnaires, surveys, research anyway, whether that is qualitative or quantitative, it's up to them. Gather some feedback. And my biggest dream is if they continued to develop on what they've built during these 5 weeks, and just basically lean on the community to ask questions, or ask for help. Because I think, that is what I've noticed myself as a, vibe coder in this community. I lean on a lot of, Discord channels of
Yeah,
these
I love Discord.
platforms.
I'm on Discord as well.
And, it's amazing because, I mean, you can find a lot of questions and answers very quickly.
Yeah.
And we are now starting to support each other because some of these platforms are overwhelmed. They've got millions of users, some of them. So we are basically jumping in and helping each other out. And that's what I would like, to see.
So I want to go dive into, impact and scaling with you a little bit now, because what we are going through right now is like the democratization of innovation. And I think we need to just be mindful that we are moving into a phase where innovation is accessible at a very low price. And so how do you see vibe coding lowering system barriers, right? Accessing to technology in the future, and particularly for underrepresented remote workers, remote entrepreneurs, who might be in countries where actually still, access to generative AI and ChatGPT is costly for them. So how do we move that democratization to the next level, Sarah?
Yeah, education is always like, key. We know this as well, right? We always know this. But, when I'm thinking about developers and software engineer, I immediately picture in my head a young male in Silicon Valley, London, Berlin, or, other big tech hub across the world. But innovation, I believe that innovation doesn't belong to a zip code. It belongs to everyone with a dream and determination to actually build your dreams. So I think, vibe coding, what is actually doing is just basically shifting this paradigm. It breaks traditional barriers that we needed to know, like, specific coding languages, Python, JavaScript, you name them. And it allows anyone from everywhere, from every walk of life, to actually be able to finally build their dreams, create their dreams. I was actually reading a very interesting article the other day where they were saying that around 0.5% of the global population actually knows how to code. That's one person every 200 people.
Oh my,
So imagine now if we can actually scale that 10x in the next 3 years. I think it's doable.
it's doable.
It's doable. The ripple effects of that would be enormous because, I mean, more people across the globe, whether you are, if you have an internet connection and you have, like, access to some of these models, you are able to actually start creating a business from scratch.
Yeah.
It's all a matter of wanting it and, just time, patience, and, as I said, community behind. We're really entering, I think, a golden age of where I think, creativity is no longer, let's say, restricted by technical bottlenecks. And that is for me so important. Like, that feeling that I had when I created my first app, the excitement. Oh my God, I've done this. I own the code. I can now potentially sit in front of an investor and say, if you think that this doesn't work, I'm able to change it.
Yeah.
In
Yeah, I mean,
5 minutes.
it's fascinating because my next question to you is we talk about community, right? I think you're mentioning investors. So for me, is when you look at your partners, right, the ecosystem you're trying to build, how you are going to integrate investors, tool makers. You already talk about a lot of tools. And when I did my first level training, I listened to all those tools and I was overwhelmed. And by the way, I'm in tech, so I just look at a lot of tools. But now I need more time from Sarah to really understand and see through. And I know by spending an hour with her, I will be able to understand what is right for my business, right? But when you look at the ecosystem you are building, Sarah, investors, tool makers, universities, how are you going to cultivate and supercharge, the whole ecosystem?
If I'm good at something, it's opening doors. And I'm not scared of opening doors. You know this as well, Sabine. You've known me now for quite some times. And that's I believe in partnership-led marketing, especially for a startup when you don't have the money to actually invest in paid advertising. Your organic outreach, your social outreach, your partnerships needs to be on point. So, for instance, for the startup ecosystems, we imagine we just launched a month and a half ago, right? But last week, in London, there was London's largest demo day organized by Rare founders. And I actually found them through an entrepreneur on a WhatsApp group. And I reached out to the community manager, and we managed to do a fantastic partnership. And NoCodeLab offered 5 masterclasses and accelerator spots to the winners of this pitch competition. And that was actually launched last week. We're so successful. We're about to onboard these 5 newcomers to us. And we are going to actually continue because now, Rare Founders is starting other type of, initiatives here in Manchester, and they are going to actually attend our demo day because they've got connections with over 400 VCs that were sitting there at their event in London.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. Platform-wise, we're going to collaborate again with F6S, which is Europe's largest community of
We love
entrepreneurs.
F6S. At startup, one of our founders was, a founder of F6S. So that was the platform of choice for everything we do still today. I love F6S.
They are amazing, amazing team. And, we're already participating with them. So our application process will be hosted on their platform as well as on our website. And then, of course, I really hope that, these AI coding platforms will be able to actually partner with us at some point. Right now, they're so busy with fundraising, but, we will see. And universities, actually, I'm talking right now, I don't want to say too much, but, there is a fantastic university in Singapore, a professor, and she wants to basically bring the classes to one of her MBAs.
Yeah.
So that is something that, we are hoping to achieve. And with regards to VCs, I think they should be the ones attending these demo days and perhaps even attending some of the master classes so that they understand how the whole entrepreneurial system is changing. Because, and what kind of entrepreneurs we can now have in a room. We can have subject matter experts who are not able to code because you actually can code now, finally using your English language. So I really hope we will be able to, get more VCs on board. We've already been talking to a few of them, and I really hope to see more and more of them at, demo days and more.
Well, as Scouting for Growth is listened by a lot of VC entrepreneurs and corporates. I'm sure quite a few of them will reach out once they listen to you. So my last question to you, Sarah, let's look in 3 years' time from now, right? Let's fast forward. We have vibe coders and we can build our own companies of one. What does success look like for NoCodeLab for you, and how might vibe coding evolve as AI continue to evolve as well, and the no-code tech world become part of us as business people to be able to do whatever we want?
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, I love empowering people. You know this by now, right? So I really want to contribute to shifting the needle of that 0.5% that I mentioned before of people who can code. And this year, we really hope that we will be able to train around 300 people through our programs. And I think that that's doable because we already have 50 that have been, subscribed and applied. So I think we're on track in 1 year for 300 people should be good. I think we should smash that goal. But that is my goal really. Keep growing that number year after year and launch more products based on the feedback that I get from the attendees of these courses. At the beginning, it's all going to be about talking, building the community, making sure that people feel safe. That's for me crucial. It's a non-negotiable. And then after that, we will basically, I'm going to start hopefully train a few of these attendees or students to actually go on and do the same. Because we are reaching an age where there is no competition. It's something. If I learn something from the Web3 space, actually, is that we are all working together towards the same goal. And we should be cooperating rather than competing with each other. So if I can actually train and inspire other people to keep going under No Code Lab umbrella or their own brand, I don't care. As long as we keep growing and educating more people and raising the flag.
Yeah, I love it. So I'm so excited to get started on the No
Yes.
Code Lab and learn a little bit more about vibe coding with you as we are moving fast into this world of AI and generative AI, Saha. So where can people find you? Where should they go if they want to be part of this revolution?
Absolutely. So I'm sure that we will have some links in this podcast, but you can go to NoCodeLab.ai and you will find all the information there. If you want to apply for the accelerator, that runs 3 times a year. We are actually about to close the applications for the May cohort, and the next one will probably be in September, and you can find it on Apply. Then if you want instead to do the free mini vibe coding course, it's also on the, in the menu. And then, of course, if you want to attend one of our master classes, you will also find it there. I actually do it every first Thursday of the month, always at 2:30 p.m. UK time. So, you're more welcome to, join us. And, there are small classes as well, up to 35 people. So I want to make sure that we interact with each other.
That's cool. And I look forward to attending. I'm already
Yes.
registered for
Yeah.
one of the master classes. As I said, I've done my pre-course already
Yes.
during Easter.
And
Sarah, I've
and
done my courses, so I cannot
and
wait.
and share your certificate. You should be able to actually find your certificate as well at the end of the course. So you can share that, people can share that online.
Cool. I'm going to find it and
Yeah.
I'm going to share it. I did it from the iPad while traveling to France and coming back. So, yes, I got ready for
Yes.
the first masterclass.
Fabulous.
Sarah, thank you so much for
Thank you.
joining me on Scouting for Growth. And I cannot wait to hear a little bit more how we become vibe coder and partly for female entrepreneurs who thought they could not make it. So let's make sure that any female entrepreneurs today know that they can.
Yes, they can. We can. We all
We
can.
can.
Thank you so much, Sabine. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Scouting for Growth. Please subscribe, share with friends, and leave a 5-star rating. Your rating is so valuable. I review all of them, and my team help me adapt content to meet your needs. Also, connect with me on my preferred channels. I am a B2B growth expert, so you will find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Threads, and X as well as Blue Sky. All information available below. Until next, keep scouting for growth.